Angela Shaw is a 35-year-old female. She is married with 2 young kids. Her husband, Jeremy, has become distant during their relationship, and so majority of parenting tasks have fallen on her. In previous session, also her mother was recently ill and told her that she was adopted, which came as a complete shock and surprise. In previous sessions, Angela's expressed feeling overwhelmed with majority of the parenting role falling on her, and is also wanting to reconnect with her biological mother, but doesn't have the means to right now since she was only provided with basic paperwork. She is wanting to start contact with her, but it is going slowly. So this session is the 4th session, the beginning of my 4th session with Angela. I'm going to be using cognitive behavioral therapy as my intervention approach, with the purpose of assessing how she's been progressing during the last few sessions, and also she was given a homework task of reaching out to her mum in the previous session and writing a letter, so just to assess how she's gone with that process. Okay. So, hey Angela, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed today. I keep having these feelings in my chest again, like I've spoken to you about previously, and it's sort of like to the extent which I feel like I can't breathe.
Okay. Well, maybe before we start getting into any of the main parts of the session, why don't we begin with some breathing exercises?
Sure.
Is that going to be okay?
Yeah.
So what I want to do is start with an exercise called the 444. So what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in from our abdomen, breathe deep in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, and breathe out for 4, and we'll repeat that about 3 times just to see how we feel after. So if you breathe in with me, we'll count to 4. And hold it. And breathe out. And again. Hold it for 4, 2, 3, 4. And breathe out. 1, 2. And a 3rd time, last time we'll go. Breathe deep in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. And just breathe out. Now, how do you feel? I know it's been 3 times, but we want you to sort of feel recentered from that.
I think that has definitely helped a little bit, makes me feel a bit more calm.
Okay, a bit more calm. I think that breathing exercises like that can be really useful. And I know after the session I'll be able to provide you with more exercises around breathing and just recentering and mindfulness. So when you do start to get those feelings in your chest again, you're able to just stop and take a moment with those exercises and feel more recentered.
Yeah.
Now, I know in previous sessions I tend to take notes, and I also like to keep copies of information. So is it okay with you if I do that during this session?
Yeah.
Take some notes? Great. And so I'd just like to do a mood check and sort of see how you're going since our last session. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Yeah. So during this week, what would you say have been, some positive and wins in your week, and perhaps maybe some not so positive and negative things from the week?
I think one of the positives that have sort of come out of this week is that I've been able to negotiate with Jeremy a little bit more around the role of parenting, and he has been able to take that role on a little bit more this week.
Yeah.
And I think I've been able to find a little bit more confidence in being able to speak up when I do need help from him.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you set the task last week for me to write a letter to my biological mum.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't find the confidence and the strength to actually do it, and that's made me feel a little bit down about myself. I feel really overwhelmed, and I got those tight chest feelings like I was saying.
Yeah.
So I just couldn't really find the words to know what to say to write it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's been some highs and some lows this past week, but I think I really have just been struggling with some self-doubt around reconnecting with mum.
Yeah. And it seems perhaps that, while there have been some wins, there's also been a few tough things that you're trying to work through with around the homework, but we'll get more into that during this session. Right now though, how are you feeling coming into it and in this moment here?
Coming into it, a lot worse than how I'm feeling right now. Like I said, I had that tight chest feeling that I've had all week, which has relieved a little bit now through that exercise.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously talking about reconnecting with mum and the thought of writing that letter does make me feel very overwhelmed, and it's very hard for me to sort of talk about. But it is something that I do want to do. Is eventually find the confidence to do it.
Yeah.
So that's mainly how I'm thinking at the minute.
Okay. And so last session, or the last few sessions, you've expressed how you've been wanting to reach out to your mother, and at one point I wrote down that you mentioned writing a letter might be a bit easier for you than doing a complete phone call, just because you want to take time to plan your words and you want to take time to, you know, not feel so overwhelmed or stressed or put on the spot. How did you go attempting to write that letter and make contact with your mother this week? Is that homework?
Yeah, like I said, I obviously tried. I got out a piece of paper and a pen and I tried to start writing the letter. I didn't know at all where to start. I think I just wrote hi and that was it. In terms of what to actually say to her, I have no idea. I just keep overthinking. What's she gonna think of me? Does she still think about me? What do I even say to her? She doesn't know who I am. Just a lot of sort of negative thoughts that are hindering me from actually writing this letter, as well as the fact of just not knowing what to say in general.
Could you tell me more about those sort of negative thoughts that were playing on your mind while you were writing it?
Yeah, so I think I just have these thoughts and they basically just tie back to feelings of feeling like I'm going to be rejected. Maybe she won't write back. Maybe she doesn't want to hear from me. I get worried about the way that I'm going to articulate myself, and just constant sort of spiral of at the end of the day not wanting to feel rejected.
And I know that this was a big step in you doing this homework, and it's been a few weeks of lead up, so I just want to encourage you and say you've done a great job even just making this attempt out to your mother. But like you said, there were some negative thoughts and this has made you feel a bit overwhelmed. I just want to take a moment briefly though to go off that. If I was to ask you a scaling question on a scale of 1 to 10, how overwhelmed are you feeling? 1 being not at all and 10 being completely overwhelmed by the task.
I think the thought of writing this letter and actually sitting down and doing it, if I had to rate it, probably about a 7 in feeling overwhelmed.
Okay. And 7 is, you know, it is still quite high. Where would you like to, you know, be on that scale in an ideal?
I think being realistic, I know this is going to be really hard for me. It's never going to completely go away, this anxiety that I'm feeling towards it, but it's obviously something that I just need to manage. So I guess with that in mind, I definitely want to get down to like a 2.
A 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, so something definitely that is achievable for you. I don't know if you've remembered from past sessions, but we are taking part in cognitive behavioural therapy. Do you remember what that is?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So we're kind of just focusing on, you know, why are you feeling the way you feel, your behaviour, you know, sort of taking part to analyse, you know, your actions and the deeper meaning behind it, but also just work on some strategies. And if you don't remember, in the first few sessions we set some goals, and we're just helping you face your difficulties, like reaching out to your mother. So is it okay if we continue during this session to build off that?
Yeah, of course. I really enjoyed it last time.
Great. What I would find helpful during this session is for you to take part in an activity with me.
Okay.
I hope that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Obviously you've mentioned that reaching out to your mum, it brought up some negative thoughts.
Yeah.
And you've talked about, you know, feeling like your mum didn't want to contact you, she didn't want maybe anything to do with you, And a lot of it, I think, we can call it, this fact sheet, it's called a fact checking worksheet. So we're gonna have a list of 6 statements here. And these statements are just gonna have, what I would like to call truth and what I would like to call facts.
Yeah.
And the key behind this is there is actually a right answer.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to just take your pen with me and go through it, and if I was to read it out loud, I'd like you to just say, what you see here is a fact and what you see here is a truth.
Yep.
So the first question, I have a big workload.
Probably a fact.
A fact, yep. Because would you be able to go off that and mention a bit more into that? You have got a lot of...
A big workload?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think talking about just handling just work in general, my relationship with Jeremy, that adds to my workload as well, and my being able to negotiate that with them, it adds a lot of pressure to my current workload as well. So
Yeah.
I think, and obviously children and parenting as well. So I think definitely a big workload, I would say.
So I would say that's a fact.
Yep.
The next one, my biological mother doesn't want anything to do with me. Would you say that's a thought or a fact?
I'd probably put that down to a thought, just because I haven't spoken to her, so I don't know if it's real or not.
Yeah. The next one, I'm adopted, but I don't know all the details or truths yet.
Well, it's a fact. I am adopted, I know that now, so I guess you're right in saying that I don't have all the details or to do with it yet, because there's still a lot for me to learn around the details of that.
Yep. The fourth one, my biological mother won't write back to a letter if I send it.
Probably a thought.
Yeah. And I think how we could know, if it's a thought or a fact is you haven't even attempted.
Yep.
So you could look at it from a logical perspective, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The fifth, I am learning skills to overcome my worry and anxiety.
Well, yeah, definitely a fact. That's why I'm sort of really appreciative of you in these sessions. I'm learning these breathing exercises, and so I think that's definitely helping my anxiety.
Yeah. And the sixth and final one, no one will ever love me, because I know you've expressed in the past, that your mother won't maybe accept you, or your family, now that you're adopted, won't. Would you say, though, that that's a thought or a fact?
I think because no one's actually said it to my face, I can probably put that down to a thought. Just because, no one's actually ever said that to me, although it does play on my anxiety, but I guess thinking about it in that way makes me realise that it's probably just a thought.
Yeah, definitely. And so what I think is useful is going through, thoughts and facts, is that you're able to differentiate between what is like an emotionally expressive thought, something that's emotionally charged, and what is an actual fact that's playing on your mind. And so when you are feeling overwhelmed, you can take a moment and even go through and circle these yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I will have a copy to give you, but I'll get into that in a moment. But I think that is, helpful to do and take part in.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how have you found this session so far?
That was really good. Really pulling apart the things that I have said to you, and seeing if there's, I guess, reasons behind these thoughts that I have, which make them just thoughts or just facts. Really helps me think whether they're worth dwelling on.
Yeah.
So I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I think, an important part and a big part of this session is me setting you homework, like attempting to write and reach out to your mum. And so if you wouldn't mind, I think if you're up to it, it would be good to potentially try and write another letter to your mum. And I'm also going to give you as homework one of these sheets, so you'll have a copy for yourself, so that during the week at one point you can fill this out again while you're writing the letter and bring it in, and we'll see if any of your answers have changed or if you feel differently about any of the statements that are written here.
Yep.
But I think you've done really well in terms of your willingness and involvement during this session. And I'll also be able to send you through some more breathing exercises like we did at the beginning. Do you find that going over the questions and taking part?